Okay, then. I'm going to talk about This Is Gwar now. This Is Gwar is a documentary about the band Gwar. Easy enough explanation for the title of the film. Gwar's this film is this band that came together in the 80s during the conservative 80s, and they were basically these hard rockers who had a gimmick of they'd actually build these massive suits and have these amazing stage shows with lots of blood, lots of fluids flying over the audience, and people getting bits of characters they created getting bits in the arms and legs chopped off and flying into the audience and things like that. So it was a show as well as the music. But when they first started out, the show was better than the music, and as they went on, they actually got a lot better at the music. And it's about the development of this band over 30 years from when it started until now, basically. And it's a film about a band that has gone through lots of changes. There's lots of different members coming out because essentially they're all wearing masks most of the time. It didn't matter who's behind them, so you could change the person behind the mask as long as you could play the instruments, and the audience wouldn't know. So the band could, if someone get fed up in the band, because it's a band that was never that profitable. It was one of those things you can make some money off, but not tons. So you had to be in it for the love of the band rather than be in it to make a fortune, because that was never going to happen. So it was something that was born out where people enjoyed it for a bit, and then it was like, okay, I've had enough now. I want to go and have a real life and make money and actually make a living. So people would come in, do the bit, then move on, and slowly but surely the band would evolve. So the film's about that. It's about the inspiration behind it. It's about the people who brought it together and people who kept it going and where it is now. So there was two guys who started it. One guy who was into pop music, called Dave Brody, and it was Hunter, somebody who was the guy who was making the costumes. He wanted to be a filmmaker and he wanted to do these monsters, so he was using Gwar as a place to test out his creations. So they felt that they both liked each other's aesthetic and ideas, so they thought they'd make this band up of this crazy music and these crazy stage shows. And I didn't think that they were going to get very far. They just thought, okay, we'll bring people together we like and we'll just do it. We'll just do what we want to do with this, and we'll have a bit of fun for a while we figure out what we do. Because they were like 18, 20-year-olds. They were in art school. They just wanted to do this thing. And the thing just took off. It just took off quicker than expected because people enjoyed the absurdity of it all. And there was a bunch of people, their friends, doing it. So Hunter left at a certain point just after he came out of art school. And some other people came in to do some more of the production work rather than him. And the band kept growing. Then Hunter came back at a certain point as well, after he'd done what he was going to do. Because he moved to another city for a bit, then he came back. And he was like, well, I was still in the band. I helped start this band. I should be in it. But then he started working with the new other band members, and Brody, who was the guy in charge during all that time when he left too. But that split was always a split in the band where Hunter was in one area of the band, and he apparently was quite resentful to some people, and they took over from him. And Brody was on the other side. He was doing the music side. And there was always like schisms between them. Like they didn't like each other that much at certain times. Even though the band started because they did like each other, but over time they all wanted different things. But it took years for the schism to grow because as they were doing things, they're both. The Gwar was a big enough band that they both could do what they wanted a lot of the time, and they both could experiment in things they wanted. Like for one side, it could be realizing their music wasn't that great and getting better than music. And then from the production side, it was like, how do we create new characters? How do we expand these characters? How do we do these new gags? And other people coming in had ideas. A lot of people that came in to replace Hunter come up with a lot of characters that became famous. So it wasn't the guy who created the band that actually created the characters. It was other people. So there was that element too that they had to kind of figure out. So that's the story of that, and sort of him traveling around the country. They needed a big bus basically to travel around the country because there's so many costumes. So that they would just lie in the back of the bus and these cots made up as they moved from place to place while the rest of the bus was all the costumes. And it was a case of, yeah, a lot of the production side of it cost a lot, so you were never making profits. And then when you were making profit, well, you were get some money, they'd put it back into the actual production side of things to actually make like a music video that was almost a film in length. You know, they got a budget for a music video and they made a whole film from it. And they were doing specials and things, and they were just trying different things because they were more artistic and focused then. They wanted to try different things. And eventually the money ran out from music videos, and eventually all that stuff crashed, and they had to reform essentially the band at a lower budget, which they did. But at some point, Hunter left because he got fed up with all the egos, and he felt like, well, basically it's a band, so everyone's got an ego, and he felt that his ideas weren't getting pushed through, and a lot of people who were blocking him, he thought weren't worthy of blocking him for what they'd done recently. So there's that kind of tension of like, I was one of the originals, you weren't, and that kind of stuff. There's also a shootout at a certain point where someone gets shot in the stomach because they were getting chased down by these local Crime Stoppers who thought they were gangsters. There was a sense in some people in the band that the others didn't. They worked together, but they weren't that close together in some cases, which caused some people to leave. But eventually, the band had a solid base. One of the guitarists died as well, but the band slowly formed a base that was Gwar, and they went through their troubles and they kept on moving forward from the 80s, 90s, 2000s. They kept on going. They just kept on going because the guy Dave Brody at the center of it. And then eventually he died. He died of a drug overdose, a heroin overdose. And even when he died, they decided, we're going to keep going. We're just going to keep going. We enjoy doing this. It becomes something that the members was like, do this or go get a real job. We'll do this. And at that point, they'd probably grown up a bit and actually become much closer and more normal. And the big thing of this film is that apart from the two members who started it, everyone else in it seems kind of normal. They do seem like they have fun with the whole thing, the absurdity of it all, and it's a big black joke to them. But they don't really have pretensions. They have a big silly band. They have fun with it. And that's what comes across as a good-natured feeling from the remaining band members to what they were doing and what they wanted to do. And it was viewed as just something fun for people to see. And that's what's good about the film. Even though you hear some of the darker sides of their life on the road and their lives with each other, and of course, because they're artists, that they're obviously going to make some horrible mistakes because most people in the arts cannot not make horrible mistakes. They still seem very good in nature. And the film kind of celebrates Gwar and it's all its absurdity as well as showing its downsides. It also shows you them getting through one of the members, long-term members, getting cancer and having to go through chemotherapy. And now he eventually got clear and now he's back on the road. But actually having Gwar there actually helped him, like something to fight to get back to. So the sense of it became a kind of comfort for them as they went through their struggles of their lives. So it's a very interesting documentary. It's really enjoyable. I didn't expect much from it, but actually I'm really glad I watched it because it was different from what I expected. Even though it's conventionally a normal documentary, the lives of the people involved are just interesting and different. No, the dichotomy of a normal life and being in Gwar was interesting. So it's definitely worth seeing. It's a very enjoyable documentary. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon with my top 10 reprehensible list. So I'll see you soon.